Hey everyone, I'm your host 360, and I'm here with on my new YouTube channel called Talk the Talk. Some of y'all may know me from previous YouTube channels where I sat as guests on other people's talk shows. This is something that we brought here together for each other, for people of color, so that we can come together and we can kind of discuss these issues that we have that seemingly to most politicians and other people think that it's somewhat of a joke. Men, black men, we can say it, being beat by the police and minimal charges and even going to jail doesn't really make up for the reasoning behind a man just because of the color of your skin being assaulted, disrespected, so many different things. And what do you tell the children? What do you tell other people of color that this is just something that we have to deal with, something that we have to keep suppressed? That the feeling of you driving down the street for no apparent reason and getting pulled over, that people are fearful. I received an email from a young man today who stated that how he felt that it was very disturbing for the 5 minutes that he was pulled over. And it wasn't because he was being disrespected, but it's because of all of the other things that have been transpiring throughout these last few years. It's really become to be something that it's apparent that it's not taken seriously because it doesn't stop. Even with the George Floyd incident, immediately after that incident, then there was another incident, then there's another incident, and the president of the United States tucking it down, calling people thugs, and even our current president who states that he sent something back or he did a policy to change federal police activities doesn't really make up for what's really happening. I mean, the federal is not the ones that are pulling over men of color and assaulting them. So all of these things that we kind of see aren't really helping us. And then when we think about it and we try to make sense of it, there's not much sense that you can make. And what it is that we must put more of an urgency as ourselves. If people of color, it's up to us, so that we need to be the ones that make the changes. We need to be the ones that step up, stand up, fight back, and not just through protests. And as the protests die, then we kind of get into our shell and forget until the next incident happens. This is something that has to be consistent. This is something that's everybody's responsibility. And just as they are being held accountable for their actions, we need to be held accountable to make sure that we ensure that these actions are taken. And it can't be so light-footed that a person gets assaulted, the police go to jail, and then it's tucked away until the next incident, which is really a shame. And what's really a shame is that we have all of these promises and different things from our politicians that we elect into the office, and nothing really changes. People are still suffering. And, it's that uneasiness that's the issue, is that they talk about gun control and they talk about all of these things, but the people are being murdered by the very people who have sworn to protect us. And prejudice is no longer actual reason of why these things are happening. I mean, just recently, a black cop, because his wife is going out with a FedEx guy. I don't know the whole story, so possibly some of my information may be tainted. But the man was killed, and it was like a joke. People arrive to the scene. Nobody actually does anything. It's like that blue wall that people are afraid that you got the Serpico syndrome, thinking that you're going to have to run and leave your country because you're trying to do the right thing. Unfortunately, the right thing in those people's minds are the wrong thing. Emergency responders respond. It's up to you to make sure that the person's okay. You're listening to another officer telling you the person's okay, that they're not a medical professional. So it's obvious that we have a problem. It's obvious that we have something that needs to be done. But what is it? what do we do? It's not like I can wake up in the morning and say, I'm not going to be black anymore. This is going to give me away. But I want to be able to feel safe. You don't want to have to worry about your child or your children going to school, or when they leave the house to go out for a party, that the possibility is they may not come back, and not because they've done anything, but just because the color of their skin depicts that they're a criminal, without even people knowing what their heart is, or or anything about them. I mean, I understand things happen, but these things seem to be premeditated. They seem to be that everybody thinks they can get away with it, and recently they haven't, but it still hasn't changed the mindset. And we need to figure out something about what can change the mindset. What do we do to make changes? What do we do to stop the violence? What do we do to ensure that we aren't being treated differently because of the color of our skin? I mean, this is something that's been going on for hundreds of years. People were slaves and they were released from slaves, but then they still didn't get any respect. They still didn't get any jobs. Regardless of your education, people still look at you differently just because of the color of your skin. And this is something that's not going to change unless we make it change. Each and every person has a responsibility to step up. We have a responsibility to not just sit by and think of it as somebody else's problem, because it's everybody's problem. Regardless whether you're a person of color or you're not. When you have laws and you have rights, and the people that have sworn to uphold these rights don't respect those rights and don't respect the law, then we have a problem in our nation. We can no longer sit by and let the president make excuses. Changing federal statutes are not going to do anything in regards to police brutality. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. It is a problem. It is a racial problem. It is and if it's not, they need to prove it's not. But when you're looking at the statistics and you're looking about everything that's happening in this world today, you find that it's the black men who must be aware of their surroundings. And heck, you can't, if you see a police stop, maybe I don't want to go in that direction. If I see a bunch of cops standing around, maybe I don't want to pass them. I don't want to give any indication or any implication that I am a criminal. But the clothes I wear, color of my skin, it all becomes to be an issue, and it becomes to be an issue for us. And so the bottom line here on Talk the Talk is we're going to kind of discuss some of these issues. Currently, we're asking for emails and texts. You can email me at thisyourboy@gmail.com, and I'll put that email address in the description of the room. But we want to seriously get here. We want to understand and listen to what people have to say and try to come up with some solutions. And maybe some of the solutions that we talk about will bring about a change. And it needs to be a drastic change, and it needs to be fast. I mean, we have no longer any time to waste, because it's too consistent on this basis. Every time you look, and now it's not even white cops assaulting black people; it's black cops assaulting black people. It is the blue against the people of color, and this is something that can't happen. And like I said, the people that are in charge, the chief, the commanders, the commissioners, whoever it is, whoever in charge needs to be held accountable the same way we would hold a parent accountable if a child does something. And it needs to actually be written in the law. We write it in the law, no excuses taken, and if one of your officers, especially if you knew that these people are a problem or they've had complaints before, and you still allowed them out on the street unsupervised, you're kind of asking for these things to happen. And this is something that, like I said, we want to talk about on Talk Your Talk. And like I said, this will be a short one because I don't have anything set up yet, but I will have a bigger discussion set up, and we will go through there and we'll talk about it. And I want to hear from you. I mean, this is your boy, 360.